Mark Carney and his squad do not care about fixing Canada's financial and economic problems. We saw that today because his behavior was so embarrassing it left us all stunned. He couldn't handle himself in question period yet again, and of course, he just lost the very first vote put to Parliament. He is stacking up his losses quickly, but that doesn't matter to him because we know where his priorities are. We're going to get into those today because already his priorities are antithetical to what Canada needs to grow economically and have the financial situation improve. In this video, we'll also get into a big economic problem that I'm going to talk about that very few people break down, but I think it's very important. We mentioned this. Some good news, though, there may be some positives to the aluminum and steel tariffs. There's a lot to get into in today's video, so let's get into it. We have a couple videos to set the tone here with, let's just say, some interesting language about Carney's plans moving forward.
Now, within the broader context of national interest, the interest is in, as mentioned in the press release, decarbonized barrels. So working alongside.
Whose interest is in the decarbonized barrels?
Forms of decarbonization for those barrels. That is absolutely in our interest. It provides diversification of trade partners. It provides the development of new industries. It provides economic activity across the West and into the North. So, yeah.
I wonder which industries he would be interested in developing. Also, yes, if you are curious, decarbonizing the barrels will make them more expensive and less competitive on the global scale.
Yes, there's real potential there. We took up a good deal of our time in discussions and potential to move forward on that. And if further developed, the federal government will look to advance it.
So he needs to have it further developed so that it can potentially be discussed, and then we could look at potentially advancing. It's like there's so many steps in his language that make it a non-answer and a non-actionable item that we can see all of these announcements are fake. Like if they wanted to make a real serious announcement, we just had all of the premiers together. We have projects that have existed in the ether, in the zeitgeist for 10 years. It would not have been hard for him to announce we are going to sign off on XYZ. It's so frustrating to see the news keeps repeating this and these politicians keep repeating this. There's no active projects right now. Yeah, there's no active projects now because you've shut down a ton of them. We can revisit and open those files. But why do they want to focus on decarbonized barrels? And why do they want to, invest in these other industries? Well, coincidentally, Andy Lee found this clip, but it was a very interesting clip. I do encourage you all to watch this 2021 video of Diana Carney, Mark Carney's wife, and his new chief of staff from CDPQ, Marc-Andre Blanchard. He had to be French. He just had to. We will continue to exclude investments in new oil pipelines, okay? This is the type of stuff they are interested in, and here's where their incentives are, okay? And a lot of important stuff is actually said in this clip.
Really practical description of what it takes to get on the trajectory to net zero. So our final panelist today, Marc-Andre, he's from CDPQ. It's not a member of Race to Zero per se. It's a co-founder. CDPQ is a co-founder of the Net Zero Asset Owners Alliance, which was founded a couple of years ago.
The Net Zero Asset Owners Alliance. That's who Mark Carney just brought in as the chief of staff, and this is his wife, okay? Already starting off a little suspicious.
Welcome, Marc-Andre.
Thank you very much, Diana, and it's so nice to be sharing this panel with Carrie, Teresa, and Jacqueline. And
look at the title of this Zoom call, like this, meeting. Time to act. Canada businesses race to zero. Okay, net zero.
Privileged to be addressing all of you today. The CDPQ is has been looking at it in a very innovative way. We were the first asset owners, asset managers, certainly in North America at the time in 2017, to come out with really a climate strategy. And we published our first strategy then in 2017. It went very far. I mean, I can tell you it went as far as, we set very ambitious targets then, and actually we integrated at the time it was tied to our compensation. So to everybody.
Tied to their compensation. Interesting.
Everybody's compensation at CDPQ, it's related to our carbon footprint and all of our objective of our climate strategy.
Okay, so their compensation is directly related to their carbon footprint and their strategy, huh?
So we've made a lot of decisions in the last 3-4 years that actually have enabled us to surpass our target. We doubled the value of our green assets. We reduced the carbon intensity of our portfolio by 38% in 3 years. And last week, you must have heard about our announcement. We set our new ambition and we're very proud of that. And so we're targeting now 54 billion in green assets by 2025. That's
54 billion in green assets.
In a few years from now. So we will therefore triple the value of our portfolio of low carbon assets by 2025 compared with 2017. We invest to increase the supply of clean energy as well as sustainable transportation and real estate around the world, and many other assets that we believe contribute to the transition. We're raising the carbon reduction targets for our portfolio to 60% in 2030.
Okay, so listen to everything he just listed off there. Do you think it's possible there's now incentive from these companies to get involved, make sure that policy is swung in their direction when they are putting billions and billions into assets that are directly tied to, net zero and environmental performance and all of these things? So we have these people who Mark Carney is surrounding himself with, who their sole goal is to make sure that these industries thrive and do well and grow. We just showed this clip where Mark Carney's talking about the innovation in these industries and how these things need to be focused on, and Canada could be the one in charge. And then we have his buddy, his pal, talking about how he owns stake and interests in these companies that they have the option to be, innovative with. Nothing to see here, just a couple of boys having fun, not strange at all. But anyways, he goes on to say that they are not going to have any pipelines in their portfolio moving forward. They're not going to invest in it. As well, he goes on to say, we are really going to benefit from the green movement. He does say, we have the option to help, but also it'd be in a unique situation where we get to benefit from the transition to green technology. So it's clearly self-interested, investing focused. It's to them, it's all about money. It's all about finances, which they don't actually care about helping. But then the problem is when they don't want to invest in pipelines, we have experts coming on mainstream media talking about the problems that we're going to have moving forward in Canada. And what he says, it's so apparent why we keep banging our head against the wall and we can't get a project done.
All right, I want to bring in Dennis McConaughey, former energy executive. Dennis, good morning. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
So the Prime Minister said that there is a real potential for pipelines during that meeting yesterday. How do you see this playing out? Is it only a matter of time before there is a pipeline in the east or the west?
Real potential. All he has to say is we'll get a pipeline approved.
Well, let's just review the basic facts here. Alberta has the capacity to probably increase its oil sands derived oil production over the next decade, maybe by as much as 1 million barrels. So that begs the question of how is that going to get to market and what market is it going to go to? So I do expect there to be a drive for more export infrastructure coming out of Alberta. And of course, a resurrection of the Northern Gateway project, which really means using the existing right-of-way that LNG Canada created to Kitimat, is going to be most likely from an Alberta perspective, the project they want to see become that incremental pipeline project.
Yeah, a project that started a decade ago that easily could. They're talking, even after this premier's meeting, they're still talking about 2-year approvals on these projects when we know the Northern Gateway Pipeline has been on the docket for over a decade, but we're still going to need an additional 2 years to get that started, huh?
So I think, yes, there is the potential to do that. There's also the potential to revive KXL, but that is probably not what is implied by Carney's demand for resilience and increasing sovereignty. So there is the potential. And I would make one other point. Within that is the set of demands that Alberta has of the Carney government.
Just stopping there because it showed the Quebec premier for a second. His response after the meeting was, yeah, when it comes to pipelines, I'll look into it, but I will make no other promises outside of I will look into it. He made it clear he's not interested in pipelines. Like, we can already see, like, it was such a positive meeting of the premiers. They're not going to get on the same page. We already see them. Quebec's going to remain to be a problem. He kept talking about the environment and all these things. Ugh.
On emissions. And it is alluded to by Carney's desire to have this incremental oil pipeline filled with decarbonized oil. That really means trying to find ways of either taking the emissions related to incremental production and putting them in the ground, or buying enough offset credits and adding that to the cost, all of which...
Yeah, that's going to be good for competitiveness. We'll buy more credits, add that to the cost. One of the other things we're talking about is carbon air capture, setting up facilities to, remove carbon from the air. Oh.
Makes this still a very difficult negotiation going forward. But at least the economic fundamentals of an incremental project are there if private sector money is prepared to take the risk of dealing with these governments.
And that's always going to be a big problem. We can clearly see a government who won't commit to anything, and they are double speaking all the time. So when you're a private sector company who wants, and he says it, he goes on to say it in this video too, that they won't repeal Bill C-69. They won't repeal the tanker ban and all of these things, where the private companies go, guys, you're not putting your money where your mouth is. We want to invest. We could help with the financial situation of Canada. And again, we talked about it in my last few videos, the opportunity for sovereign wealth funds, the tens of billions of dollars, the hundreds of billions of dollars, if you think about long term, that is going to be left on the table from private investment, because we could be collecting that money towards the government, which I hate to do anyways, but it would still be money going to the government from all of this production. And the private companies don't want to get involved because they can't trust them. And here's why. Have you liked the video yet? It helps get this video in front of more people, helps grow the channel. Don't forget to sign up for Wealth Simple. Link is down below. You get $25. I get $25. Support the channel where you also get paid. Not sponsored, but let's get back to it. We have this tweet here from the food professor. PM Mark Carney suggested addressing China's retaliatory tariffs on Canadian canola, one of our largest agricultural products in Canada. Extremely expensive for us to have this on here for Canada. China's retaliatory tariffs on Canadian canola, pork, and lobster imposed after Canada backed tariffs on Chinese EVs is a priority. So addressing it is a priority. Of course, we're in the economic crisis of our lifetime. We could address it. Here's what the food professor has to say. Well, if that's true, just eliminate them. Plain and simple. It was a short-sighted decision inherited from Trudeau. I hate that they act like everything needs 10 levels of approval to be removed. We have tariffs on Chinese EVs. Nobody's buying Chinese EVs. We don't care. It's not hurting the competitiveness of Canadian domestic EVs. There's no reason for us to have that on there. Remove it. Nobody cares. Nobody's buying those things. Every single thing has been an announcement about an announcement to plan for something else. So it's going to continue to get worse if they just won't do anything. There was a motion approved and it was passed because a bunch of Liberal MPs are already out gallivanting. They wanted to start their summer vacation early, which is hilarious. One of the guys was posting photos of him on vacation, and then this vote was happening. So funny to me. I love it. They lose their first vote. Suck it, Liberals. Hilarious. But if we are going to pretend, because the Liberals love yelling about democracy and protecting the democracy, well, we have a motion that was voted on democratically, and you guys are actively ignoring it. Let's see how much they respect democracy when they start getting hit with questions here, okay?
Speaker, Parliament demanding a budget from this Liberal government. Last night, a Conservative motion passed calling on the Prime Minister to table a budget this spring. The Liberals are asking Parliament to approve a $500 billion in Liberal spending with no budget. Despite promising to spend less and cap government spending at 2%, they've increased it by 8%. Single moms, seniors, small business owners must budget before they spend. Parliament wants these Liberals to do the same. Will the minority Liberal government listen to the majority in this House and table a budget immediately?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this week was a great week for the London Knights. It was a greater week for the country of Canada.
How did that deserve a standing ovation?
Every First Minister in Canada, from Quebec, from the provinces, from the territories, Government of Canada agreed on a plan to build Canada strong, one Canadian economy out of 13. That's what the House country for.
He was asked a clear question about making sure a budget was submitted before they took a 12-week summer vacation after already being on vacation for all of this time. And the best he can come up with is, hey, the London Knights just won, and I just met with the premiers. That's not an answer to the question.
The honourable member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Thanks for the update, but what about a budget? Canadians deserve real fiscal management, not excuses or fact-free talking points. And here's some of the facts. Liberal consultant spending is expected to rise 35% to $26 billion, breaking their promise to cut down on consultants. Fact. Wow. Liberals promised $20 billion in elbows up U.S. tariffs, but later dropped them with no regard to affected Canadian workers or fiscal impacts. Fact. The majority of this chamber voted last night for a spring budget. Fact. On what date would the Liberals face the facts and table a budget for their $500 billion in new spending?
Now keep in mind, he did just list real factual things.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the First Ministers agreed on a plan to build this great country. Stand up to Donald Trump. Fact.
Not a fact.
Mr. Speaker.
Because he's saying they all agreed, which is not true.
The Government of Canada is imposing tariffs that cause maximum impact on the United States, minimum impact on Canada. Fact.
Again, not a fact, actively a lie.
On over $60 billion of U.S. exports to Canada. Fact. Raised over $1.7 billion already. Fact, fact, fact.
He said fact, 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 fact. You know, he's acting all high and mighty when 1.7 billion would already be well under their projected 20 billion that he promised us.
$1 billion spent while Parliament was shut down by this government. A spending package of $500 billion with a record $26 billion for Liberal-friendly consultants like McKinsey, and no oversight or scrutiny from Parliament. Well, this House has had enough. Last night, the House passed our Conservative motion calling on the Prime Minister to table a spring budget. Will the Prime Minister respect the will of Parliament and table a budget immediately so Canadians in this Parliament can have the transparency we deserve?
Democratically voted to have this budget submitted. He has asked a direct question about the budget.
Mr. Speaker, we take note of last night's motion. But what Canadians deserve, what Canadian provinces deserves, is a health care transfer, is a transfer for child care, is a transfer for dental care, is a transfer to support affordability. Yep. That's what's in the main estimates, and we expect the support of members opposite.
Yells fact again. So frustrating that the Prime Minister can't answer a simple question. And again, next time the Liberals decide that they want to talk about democracy and all of the problems that are, come from the Conservative side, okay, well, why don't you show them this? Why don't you show them how these guys are ignoring the democratic due process here?
I realize he's new here, but all those things would be in a budget if he'd table one. This government is going to spend a staggering $26 billion on high-priced, Liberal-friendly consultants, an eye-watering $1,400 for every Canadian family. They'll present no budget, no departmental plans, and zero transparency. They won't even stand in this House and tell Canadians what the deficit will be this year. Will the Liberals come clean, table the spring budget as this House has demanded?
Mr. Speaker, unlike the member opposite, I know the difference between main estimates and budget. Unlike the member opposite, I know how to grow. Unlike the member opposite, I know how to grow this economy.
He goes on to say, I know how to grow this economy without spending money. Okay, well then what do you need $500 billion for, plus new spending? And when he's talking about the difference between main estimates and budget, the main estimates go into the budget. That's what they're used for. So yeah, they are technically different, but the information is used for the same thing. So it's so frustrating for him to act like he's this smug, smart guy while he's not answering the question and refusing to provide the budget, which he has been told to do based on the new elected thing. So, and this is why we're going to end up in a situation like this. We have this graph here that says Canada's federal government expenditures, defense, and interest on debt. So the Canadian federal government's interest expense has exploded and it's now 60% higher than defense. We are seeing an explosion in the amount of expenditure going towards our federal debt. We don't have a budget. It's going to continue to get worse as the deficit gets worse because that spending is going to hit us hard. But this spending has been used to keep Canada's fake economy afloat. And so has this. And this girl, we're going to listen to a lot of what she says because so many hints on why there's a problem in Canada. She covers it all in this simple thing. This is supposed to be a sympathy speech on why these people should stay, but what she does is outlines all of the problems and why it's super unproductive for Canada's economy. Let's get into it.
Paying the employer like so much money to get only the job letter, and also they are not giving us full hours.
So she dropped a hint to there. She's paying her employer to get a job letter.
Like I'm working 91 hours, like 2 weeks, but they are just, he is giving me 85 hours. That's not fair. I can't help my family.
How much money did you invest?
Like I paid around $30,000 my fees for 2 years.
And then you have to stay as well?
Yeah, of course I have to stay because I paid money to these colleges. And even if I'm trying to do health job, they require the experience. So where I will get my experience if you are not giving me the job? And also they require the good references. Who will help us? I studied at Fleming College, Peterborough, Ontario. I did studies in mental health and addiction worker. I completed my 2 years diploma in like 2023. But if I'm trying my job, they are not like they're requiring the experience. But from where I'll get experience if you will not give me a job? And they are promoting only healthcare.
But that is a healthcare.
Yeah, that's a.
First of all, not a productive job that she's in. It doesn't make sense that, she is right. That, Canada does have a problem with saying like, oh, we want experience. You don't have any experience. But that's because the job market's gotten so tight because of people like this. And the fact that she thinks that they're entitled to stay because they studied is actually a problem from the community pipeline that she was brought here from, which we're going to get into. She talks about it.
Healthcare. If I'm trying to find a job, they only require the good references and they are doing discrimination. They are only they're promoting white community people.
Yeah.
We pay so much money to them and they are not helping us. Like I'm working at Papa John's as food service supervisor, but I'm paying a lot of money to my employer only to get my job back.
Did you hear that? She's working and paying money to her employer to get her job letter. So she's working, she's paying to work. That's interesting. She's paying to work.
Like before, last month, I applied my job letter as I completed my 1 year experience, but that letter is rejected. And again, on 20th March, when the job letter was again reopened, at the same day, I applied. But now there is no response. They are saying the 25% quota is already full. That's not our mistake. The government should tell us before 2 or 3 months before that we are thinking to do that, so that we can think something else. But now there is no job opportunities and no PR pathway.
There's no job opportunities and no PR pathway. Then it sounds like you might have to go home. But also, if there's no job opportunities, why would it be necessary for all of you people to feel like staying?
How much money did you pay your employer?
Like around 20,000 plus. Like,
Do you hear that? How much money did you pay your employer?
we are only for the job led, and we are working for them, and we are working more than 90 hours, but the employer is only paying me 85 hours. I can't say him anything because I am like, what to do?
And what does he say for the PR?
Like nothing is in hand. He is saying that like the government is changing the rule, but we can. But he is asking for the money. But from where I will give? If you will not paying me the full hours, how I'll give you the money?
Why is he asking for money if he's not doing anything for the PR?
I don't know. These employers are just like.
That's what the point I was putting forward.
Along with that, for the LMIs, they're asking 50,000 plus. How will give so much money? Because we paid our fees by working two jobs.
Did you guys hear that? She's actively talking about the fraud being committed in the employment market. For the LMIAs, which is the Labor Market Impact Assessment, they are being sold from the Indian community to Indians for them to stay in Canada fraudulently and work jobs they should not be working. So these employers are charging these people to work for them, underpaying them hours, and then they're staying in basement apartments in groups of 100 because that's how many people can fit in a basement apartment. And so we've seen this pipeline. We had the scam start all the way over in India, tell these people that there's opportunity there. Then they come, they get the student visas, there's no jobs, so they get charged for the LMIAs, and they go, wait, I'm paying to work for you just so I can stay in Canada? I already paid for school. None of this is economically productive. In fact, this is destructive to Canada's economy. We are seeing a giant scam pipeline build up over and over from India because they have billions of people. So it doesn't take very many people to come over, even though they are coming over in the hundreds of thousands through these scam pipelines. I feel bad that she was scammed. I feel bad that she is currently in Canada paying to work. Who's to blame? The Canadian government, or perhaps the scammer employer who she's paying to work for her, who's underpaying her the hours? All of the LMIAs, I did a video on this last year. It's a giant scam. It is destroying Canada's job market, and she is showing a live case of this happening in real time. And what's that resulting in? Oh, the mainstream media running cover by saying the US tariffs and a growing population to blame for lack of summer jobs for youth, expert says. I don't think it's the tariffs because Tim Hortons isn't getting impacted by that. I do think growing population to blame is definitely a big part of it because summer's here and many high school students, that means it's time to lock down a summer job. DeMarco Brown is grade 11 student from Kitchener-Waterloo. He's eager to work, but the attitude hasn't yet landed him a job. Nobody is winning from Canada's current mass immigration scheme, except for large corporations and Indian scammers who are selling the LMIAs right now. Lang says one of the reasons there's more competition for summer jobs this year is the record number of new Canadians that moved to Canada. First of all, not going to call them new Canadians. Second of all, they are just immigrants who should not be here. They're coming through scam pipelines. I'm not angry at the people individually. I'm angry that the system is allowing this to happen because it is a clear abuse of the immigration and the working system, and everybody's getting hurt. And you can see what's going on with the job market. Look at this chart that was put out from TD Economics. Probability of losing your job over the next 12 months in percentage is skyrocketing in 2025. And again, this is from TD Economics. This is officially worse than it was during the onset of a global pandemic. Let's call it a scamdemic, if you will. Either way, we're seeing that the probability of losing your job is higher than ever. And where are we? We're bringing in millions of more people who are getting scammed. They're getting damaged. We need to shut this down to protect them as well. We did get this announcement.
This morning, I introduced Bill C-2, the Strong Borders Act. The bill updates existing laws to bolster our response to national and economic security threats while enhancing the integrity and fairness of our immigration system. Among some of the key changes are new powers for border officers to examine goods destined for export, to prevent the transport of illegal goods, such as stolen vehicles. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies will also have some new tools to stop the flow of fentanyl and its
Who is stealing the vehicles, huh?
precursors. Of course, there's elements that will strengthen the relationship with the United States. There are a number of elements in the bill that have been irritants for the U.S. So we are addressing some of those issues, but it's not exclusively about the United States. It's also about ensuring that our immigration system, for example, the integrity of our immigration system is strengthened. I fundamentally believe that.
But the problem remains, when they could just shut down the student visas, it would not take a ton of new legislations to go, yep, we are instantly putting a cap of 30,000 on international student visas. No more. It would be easy to do.
That we have strike the balance that while expanding powers in certain instances does have the safeguards and the protections in place to protect individual freedoms and rights. There is judicial oversight, except in the case of extrinsic circumstances. So if there is an active event happening, including that involves the safety and security of someone, law enforcement can intervene at that point and seek and demand production of information. But in the absence,
so ironically, this announcement, they're like, yeah, we're going to tackle the immigration problems by removing a bunch of your rights and making it so that the law enforcement has more power. They're going to be able to open personal mail, a bunch of other stuff. So it is like a little suspicious that the current immigration problem doesn't need new legislation. They could easily just shut it down. Don't approve any more LMIAs. Don't approve any more TFWs that are not in the ag sector. Don't approve any more student visas. Like, you could just shut all of that off. And instead they're like, we're actually going to make way more laws so that we as the government have way more powers. So it's like, that's interesting. Perhaps a little suspicious. But anyways, I wanted to get into this announcement because we did see some interesting points. They are talking about the specific impacts of the steel and aluminum tariffs and the impact that has on Canada-U.S. relations. I thought this was, there's actually a lot to get into here.
Joining me now is Zelman Industries Chairman and CEO Barry Zelman. Barry, good to see you. Your company is a leader in the steel industry and the global trading, especially between Canada and the U.S.
Shout out to Canada.
Give us your sense of the 50% steel tariff that will take effect tomorrow. What's the impact?
Yeah, first off, I want to thank the administration for their continued focus on this issue. I mean, the impact will be broad. There's no question it's going to have a dynamic and an immediate impact in the U.S. on a lot of the steel products that come in. I think the upping the duties was the right thing to do. In some cases, it's at the right level. In other cases, it's still probably not enough.
And I think that's such a fundamental difference between what we're seeing out of the United States and what we're seeing out of Canada. I think we could clearly see an underlying principle from the Canadian political team is they will take action on absolutely nothing. Where, again, not that Trunk's some perfect guy, but we do have some mount up patriots. But the point is, he said he was going to do these things. He's done it, and we're seeing a direct impact. They're approving, a merger with two large companies and Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel. How do you get mad at that? He's trying to help his own country.
I think it'll have a dramatic effect on Canada, and it's going to force Canada to take a stand like the U.S. is taking. And Canada needs to push the imports that come into Canada out to create a robust Canadian market where Canadian steel can be consumed in Canada and pushed out, just like the U.S. is trying to do. That'll balance the trade between the U.S. and Canada, and then hopefully we can get to a resolution between the two countries where we need to be.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Canadians need to push out our steel that's getting imported into here. Instead, we should be using Canadian steel. Like, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned Canada because it remains the top steel exporter into America, sending more than $7 billion worth of steel into the U.S. last year. We've got a chart here that shows Mexico, Brazil, and South Korea round out the top four, all hovering at around $3 billion in annual steel exports. Germany, Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam also on that list. As far as aluminum exports, Canada is number one again by an incomparable margin, sending more than $9 billion worth of aluminum into the U.S. But when you look at the groups and the countries that are leading the...
That's a pretty staggering graph there. Look at that. Canada at a large number one position.
Import and the export, rather, of steel into the U.S. How does this global trade relationship and supply chains change things now with the 50% steel?
Well, in Canada's perspective, of course, Canada is being invaded by steel from other countries. And like I said, that needs to get pushed out. In cases like Mexico, Vietnam, Taiwan, Thailand, all of those others, the problem there is they're being used as a proxy by China.
But we know the Canadian government loves China, so it's not like they're going to do anything to shut this down. But he makes such a good point. When we could be pushing Canada first agendas, we just don't. We continue to make it so that we have to go environmental inspections and we have Indigenous and all these approvals and and the premiers and the municipal and everybody's going to sign off. We will never get anything off the ground if we keep up this level of nonsense in Canada. There's no way for us to move forward. We keep talking about being in the economic crisis of our lifetime, and the parliament is trying to go on vacation as fast as possible, so much so that they're missing votes. We don't have a housing problem. We don't have a jobs problem. We don't have a healthcare and social problem. What we do have is an immigration problem at a mass scale that needs to be cleaned up right away if we want to fix all of these things. If you made it this far in this video, you absolutely rock. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Helps get these videos in front of more people. We're trying to grow the channel. Don't forget to sign up for Wealth Simple. You get $25. I get $25. Waiting for you to support the channel where you also get paid. Not sponsored, but honestly, have a great rest of your day.